Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on when you're watching this. This is Rabbi Adam Shalom from the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism. I'm the dean of that institute. I also have the privilege of having graduated from 3 different programs offered by the institute over the course of my training. I was first a spokesperson, then a Madrikha, which is a leader, and we'll talk about that program in a bit, and then finally as a rabbi in 2001. Today, we're going to be talking about our Madrikha program, our leader program, with one of the longest tenured Madrichot leaders in our movement, Julie Gales. Thank you, Julie, for joining me today. And I'll be finding out more about your experience both in the program and in this role as a Madrikha in just a few minutes. What I thought I would do to start is I don't know that I need to give an overview of secular humanistic Judaism because this program is designed for people who are already to some extent connected to or familiar with the movement. It was created because we had communities that needed leaders. And these people who had already been part of the community had talents to bring to bear to help those communities thrive and to grow. So if you do want to read more about our approach to Jewish life called Secular Humanistic Judaism, I encourage you to visit the Institute's website, which is iishj.org. There's plenty of material in our About section, in our adult learning pages, and in other places along the website. And our YouTube channel also has a lot of very useful programs to find out about our movement there. Given that we've taken the approach that Judaism is a culture that evolves over time, and that we are the heirs of our past, but also creative progenitors of our own culture, we felt at the early stages of the Institute, which was founded in 1985, that we needed to find a way that both drew on the wisdom of Jewish learning and teaching, but also was size and burden and training program appropriate to the needs of our various communities. The Institute was actually a coalition effort of 2 separate Jewish community organizations, the Congress of Secular Jewish Organizations at the time, and the Society for Humanistic Judaism, and their communities had somewhat different needs. Some offered more Shabbat and holiday programs. Some were more focused on Jewish schools and organized around youth education. Some of them offered similar programming across the 2 with slightly different flavors or emphasis in Jewish language. But what all of them needed was people who were talented and able and knowledgeable to help organize, motivate, and inspire the local community. And out of that came this idea of creating a leadership program. So what I'm going to do is to share my screen, and this is on the Institute's website, again, iishj.org. Under programs, you've got our leadership program. This mentions that the program was created in 1987 as one of our first programs here in North America, and graduates of the program receive a title. It is a leader, or a madrikh or madrikha. That's the classical Hebrew gendering. There is a gender-neutral form, madrikhe, that someone who's non-binary has used in recent years. Or in Yiddish, the title of Wegweiser. Now, what does this title mean? Well, leader, I hope you know. Madrikh is someone who knows the way, who knows the path. If you think of derech as the path, that's what a madrikh can be. And Wegweiser is the same meaning. It's someone who knows the way. You may hear sometimes that title Madrikh or Madrikha used as a camp counselor or a tour guide, but its original meaning is as someone who knows the path and can help lead other people in that direction. Their goal, their role in our communities, as it says here, is to be a community guide, a ceremonial officiant, a philosophic counselor, an educator, and a movement spokesperson. I'll also mention chair, setter, upper, because we get to do everything. When you're leading a community, you need to make sure things work, and that can even include sound systems and chairs. They serve the needs of their communities and the Jewish community in general. So here are the admissions requirements for our program. You do need to be a member of the secular humanistic Jewish movement in some capacity, either as an at-large member or as a member of a local community. In most cases, our madrichim, madrichot have been already members of local communities, and this is deepening their membership involvement. So that's a moot point by the time they're applying. We have a basic application process, including an application form, 2 letters of recommendation, preferably from people already involved in our movement. And we do ask for some advanced psychological screening. because we want to make sure people who are going into roles of philosophic counseling and life cycle ceremonies are people who not only have the talents for that role, but also don't have any red flags or problems that might come into play in those circumstances. We use a professional evaluator to do this process to make sure that we get appropriate people in this position. Given recent events over the last 20, 30 years, we're certainly aware of the dangers of problems in those roles. There is an interview process with our admissions committee, and we prefer an undergraduate degree, but it's not required. I actually started the leadership program when I was still an undergraduate. I did wind up getting a graduate degree, but there have been people who've gone through our Madrikha program who never get an undergraduate degree, and that's totally fine. There's more information on this site about the roles, admissions requirements, and competencies, a PDF document that you're welcome to read through if you're curious about more detail in that approach. So let's say you've been admitted to the program. Now you have to decide, well, what classes, what courses, how am I going to fulfill the requirements of the program? So here are our program requirements. We have 4 required online introductory seminars. 3 of them are live or synchronous classes, and 1 of them is an independent study that you can do by watching a series of videos and then having a couple of check-in sessions with me. The completion of 3 elective online classes. These are, again, independent study programs that you can do on your own time. We have a whole series of videos from past programs that you can watch and then write an essay in response to. And then 3 graduate level seminars, which are based on professional skills. And I'll take you through what each of those are in just a moment. And then finally, there is a completion of 5 supervised fieldwork projects, which give the student some practical experience. So experience of leading a service or of teaching about what secular humanistic Judaism is, or serving on a board or a committee of your local congregation or the local Jewish community to get some management and governance experience. The idea is that you get some real life experience and also a little bit of real life feedback into how you're doing. One of the truths of leadership in Jewish life is that people always have an opinion about how you're doing. Many of them are not shy about sharing that opinion, not always nicely. And it's a very important skill to be able to hear what you didn't do well, independent of how that information is conveyed to you. If our goal is to do better, then we have to be willing to accept feedback, even criticism. We don't have to accept abuse, of course, but we do have to be able to learn and to grow and to do better. So part of the supervised fieldwork experiences is a way for you to get that experience of having someone tell you, this went well, this could go better, and learning how to modify and improve. And then finally, we want our students, upon completing the program, to have some reading proficiency in a Jewish language. That would be Hebrew or Yiddish or Ladino, just to cite a couple examples, to know the basic Aleph Bet. Because someone might ask you, is my name spelled right on this ketubah, this wedding agreement, or on these certificates? You do not have to be fluent in speaking or reading, but it's just to be able to know the letters and the vowels. This is a requirement we added maybe 20 years ago or so to the program because we felt like it was important that our leaders going out there in the world be able to have that very basic functionality. Now, here's a list of the classes that are required for the leadership program, and you'll see it's a basic literacy in what you need for the job. It's not a PhD in Jewish studies or a rabbinic degree that's multiple years of graduate level classes. We have the independent study that's highlighted here as roots of secular humanistic Judaism. That's our intellectual history and what are the trends in Jewish life that we draw on to find inspiration and also to get a sense of where we come from. We didn't just start boom out of nowhere in the 1960s. We actually have roots that go back much further. The second class in our core philosophy is called Basic Ideas of Secular Humanistic Judaism, and that's how to answer the commonly asked questions. What does it mean to be Jewish if you don't happen to believe in a God? How can you celebrate Jewish life if you're not following religious law? And so on. And it's good to get those kind of practice experiences because these questions will come up in community leadership roles or even just doing a wedding or a funeral. Someone might ask you some of these core questions, and it's good to get our philosophy rooted, but we like to do it in a sort of question and answer practice. We look at the frequently asked questions and see, how would you answer that question? Then we have 2 core classes on our holidays and life cycle events, core elements of Jewish culture. The life cycle event class is the same that our life cycle officiants take, so you'll take it with those students in that program. And then the Jewish calendar and holidays class is specific to the leadership program students. We have a rabbinic version of that class that requires more Hebrew knowledge, has a lot more reading, and takes a lot more course time. This is about 12 hours of class time. The rabbinic level 1 is about 70 hours of class time. So if you really want to know all there is to know about Jewish holidays and you have the Hebrew competency to do it, you can take the rabbinic version, or you can take this leadership program version that'll be done as a series of online learning sessions. We'll usually do a series of 4 3-hour Zoom sessions as a way to meet the course requirements for those basic ideas, life cycle, and holiday classes. Then the graduate seminars, these are the professional skills that I mentioned. We have one seminar on Jewish education and curriculum planning, another on basically nonprofit management, but in the congregational or community setting, called leadership management and community. And third, we have philosophic guidance and counseling, because sometimes you have to deal with counseling situations, even though you're not a therapist and you don't play one on TV either. You still need to be able to respond to a circumstance where someone says to you, "My mother isn't attending my wedding. What do I do?" Or in this funeral, "I couldn't stand my father. What am I supposed to say at the funeral? How do I deal with this?" And again, you're not their therapist, but you are the ceremony leader and you have a leadership role in the community. Sometimes you need to use this to deal with community dynamics too, because surprise, people sometimes don't always get along. And if you're the community leader, you are managing the volunteers, you are managing the volunteers who can't stand the other volunteers, and you have to try to find a way for the ship to move forward. So this class in philosophic guidance and counseling helps you get a sense of yourself as a leader in that role, but also how to help manage other people. I often joke that these jobs in community leadership would be much easier if it weren't for all the people. And then the third requirement is a series of elective seminars. There's 3 weekend seminars worth. We have some in-person seminars occasionally. We used to do this more often pre-Zoom. But nowadays we've recorded quite a bit of material, and there's a list here of options that you can take a look at that give you some examples of these past seminars or adult learning classes or past colloquium conferences that you could watch and look at all the materials for, and then write a paper, and that would fulfill your elective requirements. So a lot of flexibility in that department. If you want to do something on the Bible, we've got a couple options on that. If you want to do something on Jewish culture, we've got many options on that. Contemporary Jewish events, modern Jewish history, you've got your choices. So that's the elective requirement. So again, remember, you've got those 3, you've got the 4 required online classes. That's the core philosophy and holidays and life cycle. You've got the graduate level professional skills that you take actually with our rabbinic program students as well. And then we have the elective seminars, which you can do as independent studies as described. And then finally, the field work, which we mentioned before, where you have to do some work as an educator, as a spokesperson for the movement, as a community administrator, leading a festival, holiday, or a life cycle ceremony context. And there's more examples of what these tasks would be like on the website as well. Finally, on this page, if you are watching this video and are interested in learning more about the program, you're welcome to fill out the information form here and submit it, and then we'll be in touch later to answer any questions that you have or to set up a time to move forward in the admissions and application process. Just as one final note about the class requirements, for these core classes, and also to some extent for the professional skills classes, some people get a little nervous because they haven't been in college in a long time. And they're worried about what kind of reading requirements are there, what kind of writing requirements are there. Generally for these, we have a couple of books that are required, but not an extensive curriculum. We also do ask students to do a basic response question assignment, which is like a paragraph short answer for, to some extent I joke, it's like were you awake during the seminar? If so, you should be able to answer these. And then we do ask the students to write a paper. It's generally around 1,500 words. So that's not an overwhelming amount of writing, usually, 7 to 10 pages. And it's on a topic of your interest that's related to the seminar. We don't have assigned topics. 99% of the time, the student proposes a topic, and I say, great. Once in a while, they propose a topic, and I say, that's too big. Let's try and narrow it down a little bit. And then it's a manageable size for that student to explore. But the goal is not that these written assignments be a barrier, but rather that they're a chance for you to develop your ideas. And maybe if you are part of a local community, to write something that could go in a newsletter, or that could be, part of learning and then teaching elsewhere. What a lot of our leadership and rabbinic program students, for that matter, have done as they've been going through their programs is they learn in our seminars at the Institute, and then they come back and their local community gets the benefit, because then they can teach a class to the local community on the holiday that they just learned about, or the life cycle ceremony that they've been practicing, or a core philosophical idea of our movement. This generates programming and ideas for the local community. It's not meant to be a burden for the student just to jump through a hoop. So that's an overview of the program. And again, if there are any questions, please be in touch with us, and we'd be happy to fill you in on how to answer those. But at this time, I want to stop talking because I am part of a Jewish over-talkers group called On and On and On. In the light of that, I want to introduce Julie Gales. Julie has served as the Madrikha of the Jewish Cultural Society in Ann Arbor for almost over 25 years. And she's also had a professional career and a family at the same time. So she'll talk a little bit about her experience training in the program. She was in the first class that began in 1987, but she's also had a lot of worked experience in that role, and balancing that role as a kind of part-time Jewish clergy with community development, membership, and her own life. So with that, I'll stop and turn it over to Julie. Julie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this. The Institute has been very instrumental in my professional and avocational life, and it's a pleasure to share my experience. For those of you who do not know me, I am a third-generation secular humanistic Jew. I didn't find secular humanistic Judaism along the way. I was born into it and I was raised in it. So this is really the only life I know. And I know that that is perhaps not as common as people who find us when they have wanted a Jewish life and have not been comfortable in some of the ways that they have, the tapestry of Jewish life that they have been raised in. But I grew up in this. When I was growing up, there were not professional leaders. The people who ran our communities were lay leaders. They were generally parents of children who wanted their kids to have a cultural Jewish education, a philosophic understanding of the things that Jews struggle with, an understanding of the holidays, and they wanted us to know how Jews celebrated life cycle events. These adults also ran adult programming, sometimes what we would call a coffee clutch, which is where you just get together and chat about a topic, which is very Jewish. And sometimes these lay leaders also developed ways to support people in our communities who needed assistance. But it was always done on the lay leader level. These were people who had professional jobs. They were parents, or they were adults who wanted to somehow give back to the community in an area of Jewish life that was not part of the well-organized religious Jewish community. When the leadership program started, I had been involved in my Sunday school, both when I was training in the Sunday school and then when I taught in our Sunday school, and I led some programming there. And when the leadership program started, I really wanted an opportunity to give back to the community that was so instrumental in my life. At the time, I was a graduate student studying geological sciences and geophysics at the University of Michigan. So this was not a professional path that I was pursuing. It was really a way to give back to the community that had been so instrumental in my Jewish upbringing and my identity. And as Adam mentioned, I attended the very first leadership training seminar, which was in a friend's home in Philadelphia. When I took the leadership seminars, now nearly 30 years ago, everything was in person. And really, I enjoyed the collegiality and the friendships that grew out of those seminars. Some of my closest friends to date are still the people who I was studying with in those seminars, and that in-person participation really helped cement some of those relationships. But as we all know, post-COVID, online learning provides a certain level of flexibility to our communities, to people who are interested in becoming Jewish professionals, both because it adds opportunity to their life, where if they had to travel somewhere, they might not be able to make all the seminars. The time and the money contribute to limitations in that regard, but also the online courses enable the secular humanistic Jewish community to tap into communities geographically distant from where we have other communities. And so, in essence, we're building this larger community by helping people become leaders and start communities or provide life cycle events or present Jewish adult education. So although there are in-person seminars, and I think that they're very valuable, I think that the way of the world and the way that the IASHJ has moved forward with that is really valuable to the opportunity to grow our Jewish community. And the IASHJ has been very good at creating supportive cohorts of students who engage in collaborative learning and discussion. So that, I think, has been very useful. Once I completed my training and became a Madrikha, or a leader, as I go by both titles. I was at the time in Ann Arbor. I continue to live in Ann Arbor, but I was very involved in the Ann Arbor Jewish Cultural Society, the JCS. And initially I started working there, running their B'nai Mitzvah program. And then due to other administrative staffing things, I took on adult ed, holiday programming, writing new holiday ceremonies, officiating at baby namings, doing weddings of people whose B'nai Mitzvahs I had originally officiated, working in other life cycle events, or doing pastoral or philosophical counseling. You see that these things grow because when you are involved in Jewish community, and you have skills, they are tapped, and your job tends to grow into as much time as you offer. And when I started, I didn't have children, although I was professionally involved in a different career, and continue to be. But this was really important to me, having a Jewish community in my community that represented my values and my beliefs and provided that alternative for creativity and collaboration, and for families who were either intercultural or interfaith, seemed really important and continues to be really important to me. And so it's a very big piece of where I put my volunteer time and my professional time now. So my job with the Jewish Cultural Society has grown so that I am their principal leader now. I don't, I run the school, I run the curriculum committee. I do all the life cycle events from baby namings through funerals or memorials. I create new life cycle events because we are all in the crazy world that we live in, and in the world where change is the only thing that is static. We have many transitions, and so we develop new ceremonies to help people move through different parts of their life. And so that's one of the more creative opportunities we have as leaders in our communities, working with our members and our congregants to help them move through life transitions in a creative, philosophically similar or appropriate way. So that's one of the big joys that I have in my professional life. I also represent the JCS in the broader Jewish community. We have everything from Orthodox and modern Orthodox through secular humanists in Ann Arbor, and we all get together and work collaboratively on many different projects and programs. And I am accepted as the leader of our community because that's what I am, but I am accepted in the leadership of the Ann Arbor Jewish community, which is very helpful for us to raise our visibility and to participate in programming across the board. I think one of the best parts of what I gained from the Institute when I was studying was understanding that a lot of Jewish life and, frankly, life is about wrestling with questions and concepts and ideas and situations. And I think the IASHJ program really allows for that kind of discourse, especially in the areas of, say, secular humanistic philosophy and how we are part of the Jewish community, fully part of the Jewish community, cultural Jewish identities, diversity and pluralism in the Jewish community, understanding that not everybody starts as a secular Jew, secular humanistic Jew, not everybody starts as a Jew, not all families are constructed the same, and we need to have a welcoming, engaged presence to make sure that people want to participate with us and that we're meeting their needs. It's very important in the secular humanistic Jewish world with our human-centered philosophy that people feel welcomed. And so one of the things that we wrestle with and we discuss and we engage in the Institute are those issues so that we can work with this broader Jewish community, this broader community, and help make sure that our members are welcome, or that people who may not feel comfortable in other Jewish settings actually find a Jewish home that is comfortable to them. Other areas where I think that the IISHJ really flourishes in terms of the training that I got was community building and celebrating life milestones. I mentioned that not every life cycle that we think of, birth, coming of age, marriage, death, there are many more transitions that we go through, and the opportunity to bring a Jewish lens to those transitions is really important in supporting community. And I think the IASHJ programming teaches us how to do that creative work. Our human-centered philosophy practice through this Jewish cultural lens means that we really meet people where they are in their Jewish journey and work with them to find a more engaged or more general engagement, or develop a meaningful and personal ceremonies and life cycle events. And I think that that's really important to help them better understand the broader Jewish world and our place in it. the IISHJ Madri, Madrikha, the Madrichim program, the leadership program provides training both academic and practical. Adam shared some of the seminars. I think that those actually help us build communities. They give us the building blocks to create community, guide personal growth through celebrating a variety of different life cycle events or observances, celebrate or observe Jewish holidays, understand the meanings of them. They're often natural world backgrounds to Jewish celebrations. And it's important that we know those things because they didn't, as Adam said, they didn't like pop out of the air. Our history is vast and they didn't just pop up and fall on us without some sort of history. We support the training in the program helps us support Jewish learning for both Jews and non-Jews interested in better understanding, Jewish history or culture, language, arts, philosophy. So Adam explained the program is rigorous, but in the way that helps prepare you to lead a community. It's not rigorous for rigor's sake. It's rigorous, particularly in the practicum, right? So that you know how to write a celebration, you know the background of a holiday, so that you can bring that kind of educational component. You learn how to navigate awkward situations with congregants or families at weddings so that you have those skills that you really want. You want to have that practice so that you can do them easily or at least confidently when you are out in the world running a community and celebrating life events with people. So I think that while it's rigorous, it's really so that we are confident and comfortable in the roles that we are taking on. I think our faculty in the Institute are amazing, not only for their own expertise and knowledge that they bring, but for the discussions that they lead, for their energy and their engagement. When I started, a lifetime ago, in truth, when I started, and again, we were in person, we largely had faculty from universities, both Ann Arbor, Detroit, Toronto. We had academics teaching us, and that was very exciting. But what's more exciting, I think, now is that we have grown scholars in our own movement who are now also teaching in our program. And so we do get the scholars, the academic scholars from universities who continue to teach with us, but we also have rabbis and madrichim who come and share their background and their skill with us and help us understand different topics through a secular humanistic Jewish lens. There's a lot of Jewish texts out in the world. We are now, through the program, developing texts that we can use in the secular humanistic Jewish community that help guide us, that help educate us, and they're developed by people who have been through the IISHJ program or our communities. And that is an exciting development in the course of my history with the program. I guess I would like to just end by saying that this is an incredibly exciting and challenging time to be a Jewish leader, right? There is a relatively recent Pew Research study that indicates that large numbers of people who identify as Jewish identify as non-theistic or cultural Jews. And And as we know from the political situation in the world, not everybody agrees with what's going on. Um, and so there can be scary things, scary times, scary discussions to have. But there is no better time now to develop communities to help people find Jewish communal homes and options that speak to them, that represent their values and their personal needs and interests than now. And this has been for me a great opportunity to share my love of Jewish community and Jewish knowledge and history and life with others and see them engage in it, while raising my family and having a professional, a professional career. You can get out of it whatever you want to put into it. You will get something out of it. It will be personally fulfilling. It will be professionally viable, and it is flexible in the sense that the time you put in can be either expanded to what you want to do, and what your community is interested in doing, or limited by limits that you have. But having this knowledge and this background and this engagement, I don't think that there's a better time to sort of start this kind of program, because the world is seeking different forms of community now in ways that I think the IISHJ and the secular humanistic Jewish world can help fill. So
the question I was going to ask you is, when you're out there in the general public doing a wedding or some other event, have you had people call you rabbi, and what do you do if they do?
I have had people call me rabbi, and I gently let them know that I am a Jewish professional, but I am not a rabbi. I have not had rabbinic training, though there is a rabbinic program, as we know, through the ISHJ, that I am not a rabbi. I have had training, but I have not had the extensive training that our rabbis have, and that I am able to perform life cycle events and happy to do so. I, that word carries a lot of weight. And one of the funny times when I have been called rabbi was when I was doing a wedding in Ontario, and the sister of the groom came and said to me, "Rabbi, I don't know how to tell you this, but we're having shrimp in the egg rolls that I'm serving, and I'm so sorry." And I said, "First of all, I'm not a rabbi, and second of all, I love shrimp. Don't keep kosher, and it's all okay." And so it was, so no, I don't make a big deal of it, but I don't let it lie.
Great. I like to think that the work that we do, whether we're life cycle officiants or rabbis or leaders, is that we're both empowering people to make their own choices, and we're giving them a sense of dignity in making their own choices. It's their life, it's their Judaism, and we're here to celebrate the way that's meaningful to them and to emphasize what they want to emphasize. I was talking with my confirmation class this morning, and we figured out that probably 90% of Jews know about the rules against bacon and shrimp, and 90% of Jews ignore the rules about bacon and shrimp and eat what they want to eat. So
there are 613 commandments, mitzvot, but most of us don't know what they are and don't follow them.
Yeah.
But I think Sherwin used to say that the laws of kosher could be, that he rewrote the laws of kosher to be more about eating well, eating healthfully, right?
That you can have your own dietary laws. One of the secrets about those 613 laws, by the way, that I only learned maybe 5 years ago, is that no one person can fulfill all of them, because some of them are for men and some of them are for women, and some of them are for nobles and some of them are for ordinary people, and some of them are for priests and some of them are for non-priests. Some of them are for farmers and some of them are for people who live in the city. So unless you're some kind of hybrid multidimensional being that's living in multiple roles and professions and identities at once. No one can do,
No one can do it.
people quote the number like this, a big signpost or, neon advertisement. But in fact, it's a number for propaganda purposes, not for practical life. And we're more focused on the practical, as you said.
We are. And, I think that one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing in our community is acting as a guide, right? So there are a lot of people saying, well, I understand I can't do X, or when I have this kind of celebration, I'm told I must do Y. And we don't follow those sort of restrictions or constraints because we are really focused on the people, right? The people and their needs and what they gain through a secular humanistic perspective on Jewish life. So it's very exciting.
I did want to ask you one other question.
Sure.
You mentioned often in your talk about how important it was to be living this secular humanistic approach to Jewish life. You grew up in it. I also grew up in it. But occasionally I'll get people who ask me to do something that feels inauthentic to me, whether it's what they might want me to wear or more often what they might want me to say or recite or sing, where our movement has a very consistent approach that, any person can say what's meaningful to them. I'm happy to have family members recite a traditional Kaddish or a prayer called El Malei Rachamim, God full of mercy. But I don't recite it because it doesn't have meaning to me, and I feel like I'm misrepresenting myself by saying these words that I don't believe. So I'm curious for how, I assume that kind of request has come across your desk once in a while. And I'm curious for how you would respond to that question, given that our leaders in our program who are certified have an ethics code that says that they have to consistently represent themselves humanistically in services.
So this happens quite a bit. And I believe, as you have just stated, that the people who we serve, like our community members or our clients who might hire us to do an interfaith and intercultural, a Jewish wedding, they should be able to get the celebration or the observance that they seek. But that doesn't mean that I should violate my own ethics or beliefs to do it. And so if I'm officiating at a funeral and somebody wants Kaddish said, I'm very clear that it is their right and that I will help them find somebody to say Kaddish unless they have somebody who wants to say it. I will help them find somebody to say Kaddish, but I won't say it because it focuses on not the person who we have just lost, but the relationship with God. And I don't believe in God, and it would be disingenuous of me to say it. And I don't want to violate my own ethics code, and they don't want me to violate my own ethics code. So I make it possible for them to have what they need, even if I'm not prepared to say it. And the same thing happens at weddings on a regular basis, where somebody wants to use a religious bracha, maybe the wine, maybe the blessing over the wine, and we use other blessings, non-theistic blessings that are beautiful, but sometimes somebody wants the traditional because that's the way they grew up and it's meaningful to them in that historic context. I am not there to stop them from using it. So we just have somebody else say it.
Mm-hmm. And often it can be a nice way to honor family members or people who are close to the family. And occasionally it sparks a little bit of introspection, because I had a family recently that wanted the traditional Kaddish instead of a humanistic adaptation. And I said, does anybody here feel confident reading it? No one knew it well enough to lead it. I said, well, then maybe the humanistic one will be okay, because it sounds like the traditional Kaddish. It has a similar cadence to it, but it's praising peace in the world and the peace that we seek in our life as opposed to the great name. And we read that and it worked out great and they were very happy. So sometimes that opportunity lets them think a little bit. But as you say, very appropriately, it's not our wedding, it's their wedding or their life cycle event. And so we want to empower them to have the ceremony they want. We're sometimes the coordinator of other people doing readings, and that's totally fine as long as we have our sense of integrity.
Right.
I like to say that everybody's in charge of their own head. So if you want to wear something on your head, you can. If not, you don't have to. My wife actually wore a tiara at our wedding because she said, when else can you pull off wearing a tiara?
There you go.
So there you go. It was her head. She could wear a tiara. So I think that empowerment approach and that individual rights approach, I think, is the what makes part of what we do so meaningful, is that we're letting people make choices. And if their choices are what's meaningful to them, then the Yiddish phrase is Gesundheit, go off in good health and live your life the way you choose.
Exactly.
Well, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm assuming we've answered every possible question from those attending the webinar. But as I said before, if you do have any questions watching this video now or later, you're welcome to be in touch with us. There's the form to fill out on the Institute's website about the leadership program, or you could just email us. I'm at dean, D-E-A-N, at iishj.org. I'd be happy to be in touch and follow up on any interest you might have in our leadership program. Once again, I want to thank Julie for taking the time to be part of this, and also for your lifetime of work in this role in your community. It really is wonderful to be in the same place for 25 years and to be able to have such an impact. And I agree with you. The multiple life cycle events for the same person is just wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. People have watched me grow up. People have seen my trajectory. It's lovely to be involved with a family for decades, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel impactful, and it really speaks to the kind of communities that we're trying to build. So it's lovely, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. Well, goodbye all. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll hear from you with some interest soon.